Hey there, neighbors and naysayers. Clint Finney again. August 28th, 2023. Been doing a bunch of videos lately, just had thoughts. I guess it's probably because the boys aren't home, so I got time to think. Just coming by this kind of scenic vista, and there are plenty of them here at the farm. This one probably isn't even one of my favorites, but I came by it and saw it and said I think I ought to stop and take a video. You all probably can't see it, but just at the top of the tallest tree you can see out there way in front, there's a water tower. And that water tower is on what I know as Smithfield Ridge. It's County Road 14, 15, 16, something like that. It's right in front of, and I cannot think of their name right now, Core, right in front of Core's house. But that's how far away, that's not even close to how far we can see. If you look that way, we can see fireworks in Steubenville, up at the airport, and a bunch of other places. But brought to my mind, because at the fair this last week, I ran into Hans's dad. I don't know whether I put this in the video or not, but he had a man with him from Australia. They were down looking at antique tractors at a friend of mine's house, and they stopped at the fair to look at the antique tractors, and stopped in at the sale, and I stopped and talked to him, and struck up a friendship with the guy that he had managed a bunch of cows and a bunch of sheep in Australia, and his quote was, "You can't grow old farming." He had sold out of the farming business and was traveling at this point. Spends part of his time in Switzerland and part of it in Australia, and comes to visit us here in America. So kind of neat. But the other quote he had was, "You live in a beautiful area." And I know that. I don't think a lot of other people ever realize it or ever see it. We live in a very beautiful area. I've been all over, been fortunate enough to be all over the East Coast, the east side of the country, east of Mississippi, and been to California, and there ain't nothing prettier than the lights of home when you get here. When you start looking around, I really love the mountains. I love to go down south through the mountains, and you go to those scenic vistas there and look around, and then you come back here and you come up on these hilltops and you see those long views that we can see, and there's plenty of them around here. You just have to look for them. Places that really, if it wasn't for that water tower and here and right before it gets dark, you don't even know there's anybody out there. It's all looks like this wilderness. Now at night there's lights that twinkle, and I can start to see some now. But just at the right times of day, there's places I can look and there aren't any people, or at least it doesn't look like there's any people. And if you start to think about it around here, there are some places that there aren't people. Dad and I talked about this one day. We could start in Dillonville, go up on the hillside, and walk that hillside all the way around to the Narrows Road before we'd run into people. And then we could cross there, and we could walk pretty much there down the river on the slope of the hill, and we wouldn't find people. We'd cross roads, but that's about all we would cross. There are literally hundreds of thousands of acres around here that don't have people on them. They're too steep to farm, and so they aren't. And you could go a long, long way without running into people. So that's one of the thoughts for tonight. I guess the other thought is I'm waiting on a phone call to talk to Ethan, and was down walking his pigs. He's decided he'd like to try to take some to the Keystone International. So I tried to tell him we'll just go and we'll see how it is, and then we'll go next year. And sometimes he proves that he's my kid, and he says, "Nope, if we're going, we're taking pigs, because it ain't worth going if we didn't take something." So thank goodness the pigs that went to State Fair are eligible. We just got to get them fired back up and go. We're probably just going to go to show showmanship, but that's fine. Any ring time is better than no ring time. But as I was walking, and I decided maybe we're going to train a little harder with pigs this time, and I need to see if I can get them to hold their head up and do some other things, and get them a little bit better show ready for Ethan. And of course he isn't here half the time, so Dad's got to walk them, which is fine. I enjoy my time there alone walking pigs. But as I was walking, a neighbor came home, and he's a good neighbor, a good friend, and I went to high school with his wife. And he pulled in the driveway, and I would say one of the boys was in the truck with him, and the other boy come out to meet him, and I just wanted to text him at that moment and say, you know, don't take for granted how lucky you are. Now, he's a hard worker. He's an electrician. He works 13 days out of 14. I know some days he probably is home or at work and thinking, boy, I wish I was at home. And I'm sure he is. There's days that I wish I was at home. But there are days he probably thinks that things are going wrong or he's doing this wrong. But I'll tell you, I wanted to text him tonight and say, you don't realize that there's somebody just across the road that is envious of you, because not everybody gets to come home to their kids every night. And you know, it's not something I'm crying about. I'm not upset, I guess. It's those little things that you don't get to do when you're a single parent or when you're in a divorced relationship, that you don't get to see them every night. They don't get to run out to the truck to meet you. And some days when you're working like that, you may feel like you don't get to spend time with your kids, but at least you get to spend time with them in those little moments that I don't get. I get phone calls, and that's about what I get. So